Hi, everybody. I am Brian Finnerty from Macabre Daily, coming to you specifically from the Paper Cuts column, where we have the pleasure of talking to some of the best and brightest and scariest voices in horror literature, as is our wont. And today, I'm really lucky to be joined by a face that is probably familiar to some of you because it feels like just yesterday that they were here talking to Sean O'Connor about their last book. But we have Saratoga Schaefer here talking to us about The Last Time We Drowned, which is their next novel coming out from Cosmo Reads on June 2nd of this year. Saratoga, hi. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Yes, thank you for having me back again. You're right. It does feel like I just did this. It's amazing and exciting to have multiple books out in one year, but it's also like, oh, I'm doing this again. Cool.
I know, I can't believe it. I was teasing or giving Sean a hard time earlier, actually, because I feel like this is a little unusual for us to, and unusual in a good way for you, for us to have somebody so quickly back to talk about another book. And I was like, like, Sean, you stole all the questions. I don't know what to ask them now. But luckily we have a whole nother book to talk about. So
Yeah.
I think that should help.
And I feel like they kind of go together well because they're sort of different takes on the influencer online social media trend. So
Mhm.
there's still plenty left to cover with that topic because I feel like you could write 50 books just about that whole lifestyle.
Yes, yeah, you could definitely carve out a nice little niche for yourself, literally just writing on these themes.
Yeah, I think I might be done for a while after I like I like writing about it. I find it very interesting, but I'm gonna take a nice break from the social media books after this one.
It's time for a break, as we all should be taking a break from social media, both like figuratively and literally, I feel like.
Yes. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that.
I know, like, that actually was one thing I wanted to ask you about was the fact that like your last book, Trad Wife, which I loved, by the way, like I went into it sight unseen, and I was just blown away by it.
Oh,
So
thank you.
thank you for that book. Um, but then the last time we drowned, as you said, also leans a lot into the social media aspect. And I guess I was just curious, like how you got interested in social media in general, and maybe a little bit about what is your personal relationship like with social media?
Yeah, I have a pretty long background working in social media marketing.
Okay.
I went to school for English and film studies
Hmm.
and then quickly learned that you can't get a job when you have an English and film studies degree. So I went into admin essentially.
Hmm.
And this was, I don't know, when I was just out of college. So like 15 years ago, a while ago now, where you could be like a receptionist who also did social media.
Hmm.
Whereas now, like, you go to school for social media, like, you go to school for marketing and communications. So I was able to sort of finagle my way into a series of social media jobs where
Hmm.
I moved into marketing essentially, and kind of learned boots on the ground how to do that.
Okay.
And so I have a professional history of social media management, social media marketing, digital marketing, that kind of stuff. So I
Hmm.
was really familiar with the back end of social media, of creating accounts, of growing accounts. And that's was very useful, not only for my professional career, but when I started writing more, obviously growing my own pages and being able to write these books that do examine social media from kind of like an authentic lens.
Yeah.
And then the other part to that is that I used to be like a sober micro influencer. So I got sober in 2019 because
Okay.
it'll be 7 years in June. So
Nice.
from like 2019 to 2023, 2024, I operated and grew a page that was like about my sobriety journey. And it
Oh,
ended
wow.
up really resonating with people, and I got a ton of followers from it. And it was kind of weird because it's like a very personal thing that you're putting
Yes.
out there, and you get all these weird dopamine hits from it because people are like resonating with what you're saying.
Mhm.
And it sort of created this foundational experience with social media for me where it was just like very love hate, where
Mhm.
like there are people that I met through that account who I am still good friends with today, who I would not have met if it wasn't for that account.
Mhm.
I was able to stay sober because of that account and because of literally the accountability I had on there.
Yeah.
But then it was also, it was work. It was all this work, and I kind of
Mhm.
like wasn't getting paid for it because it was just like my stuff and my page. And it also opens yourself up to the trolls and the nastier people who are on the
Mhm.
internet. And it was just very interesting to live in this space where I deeply loved and was grateful for certain aspects of social media and also viscerally hated it.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's such
that's
a
kind of
push-pull.
continued to today.
Yeah, it's such a
Yeah.
push-pull with that too, because it's like you said, it's such a, especially that niche, it's such a
Yeah.
personal thing. And for that to resonate with people, I imagine you have to be like very authentic and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And like that's very good in some ways, but then yeah, you're opening yourself up to like probably very sensitive parts of your life to people who may not always have the best of intentions.
Right. And it was also during that time that I was like kind of exploring and coming into my gender identity.
Mm,
And I was also very vocal about sobriety has this, especially in online sobriety spaces, it's very white, it's very straight, it's very
mhm,
cis. So I would try to be very vocal about uplifting these underrepresented voices in sobriety, and some of the very huge monetized pages did not like that. And because, sobriety influencing is like a thing now. Like there are accounts with a million followers that do this. And some of them did not like some of the things that I was saying. So like
yeah.
there's just like that kind of like weird drama stuff that happens in every online niche. And there's things like, sexism and racism and transphobia, which is a societal issue. So that bleeds down into each niche as well. So
And
it
it gets
it just
so
got like,
amplified online too.
yeah. Yeah. So it was just very interesting to be in that kind of like tight knit space and still see all this stuff happening. And, like you said, exposing yourself to that and being vulnerable, or just being vocal and getting a response that's not always positive, was very interesting to explore and take note of. And I think that's why I started to want to write about it, because
Yeah.
it was just like so strange. And it was like I don't always do well in those gray areas. Like I like things to be clear one way or the other, and social media is not one of those things, which is why I like to like try to dig into it, because it's hard for me to have any kind of definitive statement about like this is good or this is bad.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's fascinating. Thank you so much for that's a fantastic peek into your background that makes your books like I want to like reread your books now with that in mind because it's gonna be a totally different experience. And I'm just thinking like the dynamics between your characters, Charlie and Vivian and Fiona, all those complicated relationships make a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
How you were able to like bring those to life on the page.
Yeah, my storied past with social media, but I think it also helps in allowing me to flesh out my characters a little bit more. Like
Mhm.
I especially with this book, like I really wanted the influencers to have their own personalities and their own motivations and their own reasons for being there. And I didn't want it to just be like a takedown of
Mm.
influencers or influencer culture. Like there's a little bit of that in there, and I love satirizing things like that.
Mhm.
But I think I also wanted to make it clear, like, I know how much work this is, and I know that it's a full time job, and I understand that sometimes, you kind of have to fake it a little bit to be doing your job. So I wanted that to sort of come through a little bit as well when handling these kind of characters, because you want them to feel like real people and not just cardboard cutouts.
Yeah, which yeah, I'm just thinking there's that additional challenge of trying to do that when you're depicting social media influencers because it's such a, especially from the outside, it's such a question mark of like, what is real? What is fake? Is anything that we're seeing online actually indicative of the person that you are? Um, and I think you did a really good job of that. The characters were very nuanced and very fleshed out, and without giving any spoilers away, I found myself like surprised throughout the story in terms of who is going to be a sympathetic character, who is ultimately going to be someone that is more on the dangerous or the bad side of things. Who are we going to feel bad for? That was a cool part of the book.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm curious in your own kind of personal social media journey, did you have a cathartic moment like Charlie or in Tradwife, where the character is just like deleting their page and saying, "Nope, that's it, I'm done."
I Not quite. I think Charlie's relationship with social media is probably pretty close to my relationship with social media, where she's kind of on there reluctantly, especially now that I mentioned my sober influencer page. I ended up pivoting that just to my regular author account. And I do occasionally post about my sobriety still, but it got to the point where it didn't feel like I wanted to talk about it every day anymore. I felt like I had said what I needed to say and explored what I needed to explore. And there wasn't some big dramatic, I'm deleting this page, but I did change the account name so that it was centered on me instead of my sobriety. It used to be called The Sober Climb
Okay.
because I'm sober and I'm a climber, and that's just where I landed. And then I changed all my accounts to Saratoga is Here because I felt like that encapsulated where I am in my life right now and has that present moment. And I wasn't, you know, I didn't feel the need to be constantly talking about my sobriety anymore. And it was starting to burn me out a little bit.
Yeah.
So in that way, I'm kind of similar to Charlie, who is just online because it's kind of like what she feels like she has to do.
Yeah.
And being an author, now you kind of feel like you have to be online to promote your books and to talk about your books and to connect with readers and other writers, which can be great and wonderful and fantastic. But I've said multiple times, like, if I ever win the lottery or if I ever get like a major book deal, you will never see me online again because it's just exhausting.
Oh,
And that's kind of where Charlie's at too.
yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm not even going to pretend to be able to relate to your level, but like just writing reviews and articles, it does feel like we're in this world where if you're not online, nobody will ever see it,
Yeah.
and it can feel very like again, there's good, like you connect with really cool people, and it's nice to see people resonate with your work, but also it's like a can feel like a prison sometimes where it's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
what if I just want to do this because I love it, and but it can feel like you're just screaming into the void if you're just creating things with no social media presence.
Yeah, it's not enough anymore. You can't just create the thing. You also have to
Mhm.
market the thing and promote the thing and talk about the thing for the rest of your life, which,
Yeah.
like, I get that that's part of the job now, but it's also very exhausting, especially when you also have another job you're doing as well. So
Hmm.
it
I
can
mean,
be a lot.
even what we are doing right now, right? Like I so appreciate you being here and being on camera talking to me, and I don't want to speak for your comfort level, but like I'll say it for myself. I like to write. I am not on-screen talent. Like this is not what comes naturally to me. And the idea that we have this whole community of authors where in theory, like your talent, you are multifaceted, of course, but your talent is in the written word. But now you also have to be, trained for, you have to be camera ready and you have to be able to give
Oh,
talking points and give interviews. That's amazing how much the world has transformed.
I know. I think that's actually there's something to be said with this new way kind of being an author works to being like a later in life author. Like I was very upset that I was not traditionally published in my 20s, but I had a lot of life experiences and a lot of different like career stuff and personal stuff happening in my 20s that when I finally got published in my like mid 30s, it I feel a little bit more equipped to handle that other side of the things where you are essentially like media trained and you have to be able to like speak in public and
Yeah.
you have to have your head screwed on right, like that kind of stuff that I was not capable of doing when I was in my 20s. So in that scenario it's kind of like okay, well, maybe it's good that I it took me like 10 years to get
Yeah.
here because I was able to gather enough skills to hopefully be able to do this in a way that doesn't make me lose my mind.
Oh, I mean, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about like Stephen King right now, who has been like he's so vocal and outspoken about how he like literally doesn't even remember writing some of his books, right? Some of his early books. Could you imagine an alternate reality where he was on TikTok at the time when he was writing like Cujo, and his career probably would have ended. Like it would have crashed and burned because everything was just out there. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's wild to even imagine.
Well, especially now where there's like, I mean, I see it online all the time in writing and author communities where it's like, there's like this knee jerk reaction that we have to have a response to everything,
Hmm.
even if it has nothing to do with us. It's like, oh, this is the thing that's trending. Let me insert myself in my opinion. And it's like, we don't have to be doing that. Like, nobody is coming to you with a microphone and being like, what are your thoughts on da 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 da? Like, I think there's this very reactionary vibe in social
Hmm.
media in general. And it's designed that way, obviously, because it wants your attention, it wants your clicks, it wants you to doom scroll forever, it wants you to
Yeah.
be on the app as much as you could be on the app. So there's always this sense of like, oh, I'm going to be missing out on the conversation if I don't add my 2 cents in. And I
Hmm.
think sometimes that can lead people into scenarios where they're putting their foot in their mouth or they're saying something that they don't mean or they're saying something they don't understand. And
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting that we've kind of evolved to that space where, you know, the meme or the post where everyone's like, we know too much about each other. It's true. Like, we don't need to be this online. We don't need to be contributing to every single thing we see flash by our screen. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of interesting how that's evolved, even in like a professional capacity. Like, I don't know any other industry really that like has all of your peers on the same platform and you're constantly like in this
Yeah.
deluge of information together and you're expected to like be in it and contribute.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Which kind of probably goes back to the dynamic of your characters. This push pull of you're all together on this in this online world. You're not on a yacht, but it's like, are you friends? Are you family? Are you competition? There could be some tension, I imagine.
Yeah, I think that was what I was really interested in exploring in the last time we drowned because in something like Tradwife, it's very there's a lot of interiority. It's just kind of Camille and her phone. But the
Hmm.
last time we drowned is sort of about what happens when we take that social media into real life and you're forced to essentially confront not only your online persona, but the online personas of other people. So I was very inspired by this idea of content houses and things like Hype House and groups like Taz's Angels, which was really like a big group. I want to say like 8 years ago or so,
Hmm.
where it was just like a bunch of extremely hot influencers who were all living in one house together and they were all dating the same guy. And it's like a reality TV show. You can't look away because there's
Hmm.
always drama and there's always something going on. And this idea of putting a bunch of influencers in one house together is so fascinating to me and also kind of insane that I really wanted to dive into that setting. And I thought, well, let's put them on a boat so they can't get away from each other. And what happens if somebody dies or if they get trapped on the boat or if people start dropping like flies? Like, I mean, that's the coolest setting I can imagine. Like,
And
yes,
then
let's
let's
put
throw a
these
ghost
characters
in there
through it.
too.
Yes. So it was just like that idea of having a bunch of these influencers who are forced to essentially like not only do their job and promote their brand or their lifestyle or whatever they're promoting online, but to be forced to like have this external focus, this external interaction with each other as well. So that was kind of the impetus of this book, was forcing the social media to come into like real life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to thank you as an aside for being the professional who finally got the synopsis of the book into the conversation. Because before that I was thinking to myself, ask them what the book is about. That has to be your next question.
Yeah, I mean, it's about a bookstagrammer who joins an elite group of influencers who all are on this private yacht and
Uh,
they get trapped by a hurricane and then they find a body and it just spirals out of control from there.
as it probably would in the real world too. Um,
Yeah, I can imagine that being terrifying.
so like with this book, you really leaned into it being like it is. There's like potentially, without spoiling anything, there may or may not be a supernatural element to it, and there's like scary and suspenseful parts, but it's much more of like a mystery thriller, I think. Whereas Tradwife was much more your. I mean, there was nothing traditional about that story, but it was much more a. I don't know. I'll say a proper horror novel.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious, just as someone writing a mystery like this, do do you know how it all plays out right from the beginning, or were you kind of figuring out who are the bad guys? What is the answer to this mystery as you go?
Yeah, so The Last Time We Drowned is definitely more like psychological
Hmm.
thriller kind of vibes. Similar to my debut, Serial Killer Support Group. That's also a psychological thriller. And
Hmm.
then Tradwife is just, like you said, like just straight up horror.
Yeah.
And The Last Time We Drowned, while definitely a thriller, has some of that speculative, spooky elements in it as well, because I like to do that kind of genre blending stuff. I like combining things and playing around with tropes and seeing how far I can push the boundaries of that.
That's like one of
But
the best things going
usually,
on in horror right now is people just like mishmashing genres and like playing with the traditional tropes. It's so cool.
I know I love it. But yeah, so for when I'm writing my thrillers, tend to I do know the beginning and I know the end, and then sometimes I'm like, I'll figure out what happens in the middle on the way. Um, but yeah, I usually almost always I don't think I've ever written a thriller and then like gone back and done like a major overhaul, but
Mhm.
this book in particular went through several different iterations where this that is about to be published looks extremely different from the first draft I wrote in like 2023.
Hmm.
Um, the killer was always the same, like the end was always the same, but there was no ghostly element at all in the first
Okay.
draft. There was like a romance side plot
Hmm.
that I completely scrapped. There was an additional character that I scrapped. This
Okay.
B plot, which in The Last Time We Drowned, Charlie, the main character, is trying to get over this very traumatic betrayal from her
Mhm.
best friend. And in the original, she was trying to get over a breakup. So there was like kind of
Okay.
completely different stuff happening. And then last year, I just did this. I pulled this book out of the drawer because it had never really seen anything or the light of day, and I was like, I'm I'm gonna just play operation on this
Mm.
and see what happens. So, long way of saying, yes, I usually know what's going to happen, but sometimes in the editing stage, I end up transforming the book in sometimes a major way.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I like especially the. It sounds like the changes you made to the background of being Charlie and her best friend, that complicated friendship, rather than going with like a spurned romance or a spurned lover, feels really unique, and really what you end up putting to page sounds really is really unique and feels really timely for right now.
Thank you. Yeah, I love a toxic friendship. Like I love that, and I mean probably because I've experienced it, so I have
Oh,
some
thank
way
you.
to like yeah, got some background there, but I love a book that, especially a thriller that deals
Mhm.
with like a really complex, twisted, unhealthy relationship, especially between like two younger women or like
Mhm.
people trying to figure out who they are. I love seeing that evolution of how it kind of starts and then gets really intense, and but then you're all like wound up in it and you don't know how to extricate yourself. Like I just, so with The Last Time We Drown, I wanted to explore that from two angles, and one is Charlie's relationship with her ex best friend Sage,
Mhm.
and the other is the influencers on Empress and their relationship with each other, and then also their relationship with Charlie. So this kind of underlying simmering toxicity that some
Mhm.
people have to deal with in these interpersonal relationships was something I was really interested in.
Yeah, that seems like I feel like you put a post about this recently on social media about how the idea of like trad wives is trending right now, but I feel like toxic friendships seems to be trending too right now. There is something in the water because like we've got your book. I don't know if you're familiar with these, but there's a couple other books coming out soon. Decomposition book by
Yeah.
Sarah Van Oss and Backstabbers, which her first name is Eliza, and I'm so sorry I forget her second name, Jabore, I believe. Um, they all, in very very different, unique ways. All of your books are just diving deep into this toxic female friendship and what can happen when it goes bad.
Yeah, and I mean there's a couple of people who I was just honored to debut alongside in 2025 who tackled this as well. Like Julie Chan is Dead and Tell Them You Lied are both like two kind of thrillers that have that toxic female friendship, toxic like,
Mm,
you know, very tight knit, but it goes wrong and you're so interwoven in each other's lives that it's like hard to get out of it. Just I just love it. I think it's such a fun trope, and I will consume any, like it's a very easy sell for me. Like yes, give me your give me your toxic friendship books. I'm into it.
makes me I read these and it makes me feel bad about or feel better about some of the just like petty squabbles that I have with some of my friends. Like, hey, at least we're not actually trying to kill each other.
Right.
Yeah, I one of the other things I do for Macabre Daily is I write the Skeletons in the Closet column, which is looking at all the intersections of queerness in horror.
Mm.
Um, and so one thing I was very curious about with your books is, the heroine of The Last Time We Drowned is, I don't know if she ever specifically uses this label, but like appears to be bisexual. Um, and even in Trad Wife, like there's like this queerness to just like fucking up the heteronormative family structure, right? Um, would you say is this like a very intentional kind of interest of yours, looking at queer horror?
Yeah, I it's interesting you mentioned Tradwife because Tradwife, out of all of my books that I've written, even the ones that are not published,
Mhm.
is the only book that I've ever written that has a not queer main character. The only one, it's just Camille. She stands
Uh,
alone.
and
Everyone else I
honestly, considering some of her choices in that book, might be up for debate whether she's totally heterosexual.
yes. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's easier for me to write from my lived experiences. So I
Mhm.
write queer characters because I'm queer. And it's more interesting to me, honestly, than to write like a straight story or a straight romance.
Mhm.
And the other part of what I am trying to do, especially with genre fiction, is to kind of normalize having these queer main characters
Mhm.
and to have them exist in something that's not necessarily like a quote unquote queer book.
Yeah.
Like I love queer fiction. I read it. I want to consume it. I want everybody to be supporting those books. But
Mhm.
I also think there's something to be said for just having queer characters in genre fiction and have it not like be a thing really,
Yes.
because it's just like, hey, we're just people too, and like we're gonna have them be the hero and we're gonna have them be the villain and we're gonna have them be everything in between because
Mhm.
the books is about the plot and not necessarily about them being queer.
Yeah.
So that's something I try to intentionally do in my books because I want that to just not always have to be like a thing, like I love seeing my books on queer lists and trans lists. Like I love that and I want that forever, but I also want that to like not be that big of a deal because
Yes.
it's just like, yeah, we're people. We deserve to be on lists regardless.
What a progressive, mind-blowing thing to say. Like, oh yeah, we're just regular people.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but I love that too, and that's the point of representation ultimately. At the end of the day, right? Is that it runs the spectrum, and I love exactly like you said how we have so much in the horror genre that leans so heavily into the queerness and all those themes. Um, and then, yeah, sometimes we also just want a slasher movie that just happens to have a trans character or a ghost story
Right.
that just happens to have a bisexual character. Um, it's cool we need both.
Yeah, I think it's important because then you can find that representation where you're looking for it.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're not in the mood for something super heavy, or sometimes you are, or sometimes you need something kind of in the middle. And the more options there are, the more we can give you as a reader and as writers ourselves, the more we are going to see ourselves and have hopefully a better relationship with ourselves because of that.
Mhm. Absolutely. This may or may not be related to that topic, but just another theme I notice in your books is, uh, particularly in this book, in Tradwife, is leaning into almost the hyper femininity of a lot of these characters. Like these are not just like female identified people. They are people who are commodifying their femininity, their beauty. Um, is it fair to say that that's kind of like an interest of yours as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think coming from someone who is socialized as female and who
Mhm.
is brought up in the 90s and the early 2000s where like I just think about all the reality shows I used to watch where it was like next on where they have the bus of people and they would be like, ew, you're ugly next, or like
Oh, that was the
all
worst.
of
I was
the
obsessed with it, but it was the worst show.
yeah, like that, or like Room Raiders, or even when you look at like Jersey Shore or like Rock of Love or Flavor of Love, like stuff like that. It was like the
America's
misogyny
Next
was,
Top Model.
yes, America's Next Top. The misogyny is so deep. This idea of like if you are assigned female at birth, you have to immediately from birth start like essentially selling yourself in some
Mhm.
way. You are proving over and over again that you're worthy of certain things because of how you look or how you present yourself.
Mhm.
And that's gotten a little better, but not that much,
Yeah.
especially with the advent of social media being how it is. And I think that's just something that I've always been thinking about and wanting to examine and analyze. And I think in the case of this book, especially, this idea of these influencers being essentially like, yeah, selling themselves. You're
Mhm.
not a prostitute, but you are selling your image, you're
Yeah.
selling your lifestyle, you are partnering literally with a billionaire in the case of this book
Mhm.
to promote something.
Yeah.
And it's not it's not really like your brains they're after. They want you to look hot and be fun, and you're selling a certain lifestyle. And I think that's really interesting that it kind of brings up so many things we can dive into with, like,
Mhm.
is this feminist? Is this not feminist? Are we setting things back? Are we like pushing things forward? Like,
Mhm.
what does it mean to take control of our image? What does it mean to put our image out there online and essentially sell it? Like, what is that doing for our own self-worth? What is that doing to our self-esteem? It's just very, very interesting. And I don't think there's any like correct answer, because
Yeah.
we're talking about individuals, and it's very hard to put a blanket statement over all influencers of the world. But I think it's something to really like explore
Yeah.
and get into.
And then like technology and social media, they're moving so fast anyway that by the time
Mhm.
you figure out the answers to those questions, it's going to have transformed, and we're going to have a whole different set of
Yeah.
questions. Um,
Yeah.
it is fascinating stuff. I mean, I don't think this is some unique hot take that I'm coming up with right here, but it's almost like any form of social media in a way is like a form of sex work. I notice that if I have like an arc for a book that I'm putting on social media, if I just take a picture of the book, I'm going to get a certain number of likes. And then if I
Mhm.
hold the book up next to my face, even though I am not traditionally attractive and I am far from that, it gets more likes. It seems to get more attention. Like people want to see our bodies, our faces, like ourselves online, and it's just very, very complicated.
Yeah, I mean, the algorithm is literally created to bump and boost your face. Like, it
Mhm.
it loves a face. It just that's what it wants.
Yeah.
It's a specific kind of face. It's like in here. It's not like sometimes full body, sure, but it's like something about the selfie. It loves the
Mhm.
selfie. It wants to boost the selfie. It's going to show everybody your selfie.
Yeah. Meanwhile, poor Saratoga's over here. You're just like, I just want to write books and take pictures of my birds, which
I know. Why can't my birds just sell my book? I don't want to have to put my face in things anymore.
which I have to say, I have been loving the journey of your bird feeder and all those birds.
Thank you. This is like bird feeder part two, because when serial killer support group came out, I lived in a different place, and I had just like a bird feeder that attaches to the window, and I would take videos and pictures of those as well. But this is much more professional, because now I have the bird feeder with like the camera in it and
Yeah.
stuff. So I think people are enjoying it probably more than my blurry photos of a cardinal.
I'm looking forward to one of your future books that's about I don't know, a slasher who's also a birder.
I know people keep asking, like, "Can you make a book with the birds now?" Like, I'll get to it. Trust me. It's a hyperfixation long enough. It will make it into a book.
You have a haunted clown table. You can have a haunted bird feeder too.
It's true. Yes.
This is a very rapid shift, but I know we were messaging earlier, and I said I didn't even realize you have another book that just came out today, right? That you're a contributor to.
Yeah, so I have a short story in a medieval horror anthology
Hmm.
called Of Plagues and Blasphemy. It's out with this press called Grave Bells. They're new and they're amazing. They're really focused on promoting female and non-binary voices in horror. So they're doing a lot of really cool anthologies, and this is their first one, and I'm so excited to be in it. And
Amazing.
yeah, my medieval short horror story is in there.
And it's if I saw it correctly, the like proceeds from the book are going to the Trevor Project. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, all the proceeds go to the Trevor Project, and That's fantastic, but it also feels very special because this is my first ever published fiction that involves a non-binary main character. So it's sort of like a cute little full circle moment for me. And I'm like, oh, I love that my first like non-binary character is in a collection where the proceeds go to the Trevor Project. That's fantastic.
Oh, that's amazing. And I obviously I haven't, it just came out today and I just learned about it today. So I have not had a chance to read it, but it's about like a interesting concept that I had never heard of before, something called an anchorite. Is that correct?
Yes. So it's about an anchorite who starts to notice some weird things happening in their church and their town. And there's
Mm,
this like creepy child that starts to come to their window. But an anchorite is somebody who, during medieval times, is a person who would voluntarily essentially seal themselves up inside a church.
okay.
And they were sort of supposed to be dead, essentially. You're like dead to the world. You've committed yourself to God, you've committed yourself to prayer
Mhm.
and solitude. And there were all these interesting, there's so many like reports from anchorites and stuff. They did a lot of writing, they would do a lot of work for the church, and they would sometimes act as this intermediary between people in the town and like
Mhm.
God. So sometimes people will come to their windows and tell them their troubles, kind of like confessional in a church, but a little bit different. They were seen as very holy because they've given up their
Mhm.
life to become a part of the church, literally.
Wow.
And there's all these different fascinating accounts of people being sealed up, and there were all these different rules about, you know, what you could do, what you can't do,
Mhm.
and sometimes you weren't literally sealed up and it was just like a door and you could
Okay.
occasionally like leave, but others were like real intense and there is no door. You get bricked up. You're just in the church for the rest of your life in like a 16-foot room. So I have been obsessed with anchorites for years now. And it was just perfect timing to actually do a short story about one.
I love these bizarre little hyperfixations that human beings have, like that you can be obsessed and so knowledgeable about this thing that I've like never even heard of before. And I love how complicated we are.
I know. It's so fun. It's if I ever I guess I'm on Jeopardy and there's a question about anchorites, I'll do great. But like if they ask me to do simple math, I can't do that. So
Yeah, we need tag team Jeopardy for us like
yeah.
normal people who are not actually geniuses.
Yeah.
Um, and then, before we wrap up, I know because you are apparently like the most prolific author of 2026, you have another book coming out later this year, right?
I
Uh,
do. Yes.
Thousand
Um
Monstrous Forms.
yeah, A Thousand Monstrous Forms comes out September 15th. That's another horror. So I'm doing like a thriller horror, like a
I
back
like
and
it.
forth. Just kind of worked out that way. A Thousand Monstrous Forms is a sapphic gothic Bluebeard retelling, but it's
Mhm.
set during contemporary times. So it's about a ceramic artist who moves into her new wife's manor and she is very worried that it's haunted, but she's also forbidden from going into the basement. So
Mhm.
there's some fun stuff ahead with
And spoiler, like there's nothing in the basement, right? It's just totally,
oh
totally
yeah, totally.
anticlimactic and
It's a completely empty basement. There's like a boiler down there and that's it.
yeah, just ends abruptly after chapter two.
Yes.
That sounds fascinating. I was laughing because a couple months ago when you talked to Sean, you told him about this book and he was like, "You had me at Bluebeard," and I had the exact opposite impact. I was like, "You had me at Sapphic."
Yes.
Queer horror, yes,
One or the other will get you. Bluebeard or Sapphic.
absolutely. I mean, you cover all your bases, so.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so yeah, Saratoga, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us.
Yeah,
So,
thanks for having me back.
oh, absolutely. And it sounds like in a few months we need to have you back again for a third time.
Yeah, we'll do the hat trick this year. It'll be great.
Absolutely. And either Sean and I will either fight it out for who gets to talk to you, or we will find a third contributor from somewhere. So you get another unique face. Um,
That sounds fantastic.
but
Either
then
way.
afterwards, you have to promise that you will tell us which of us was your favorite. Okay, no pressure.
I'll do my own reality TV competition of like interviewers for
Uh,
for all of my many books this year.
I love it. So yeah, so again, for everybody, everybody watching, The Last Time We Drowned, coming out June 2nd from Cosmo Reads, of Plagues and Blasphemy from Grave Bells Press is out today, and we'll make sure to include details on that in the article when we put this up. And then later this month, later this year, a
God,
thousand.
not later this month. Too tired for that.
Sorry, I just gave you and like your agent a heart attack, right? But out later this year. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Saratoga, thank you. And everybody out in Macabre Daily World, thank you all for listening. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.